and how millions of African origins were sold, transported by Europeans, some killed, drowned, and survivors forced to work in American plantations under torture, humiliated, and racially abused. Today, you will get brief knowledge in addition to the ones you may know before now. However, this history and knowledge will not be complete without romancing with the origin in present-day Nigeria. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on your time zone. Please do not forget to subscribe to this channel, like, share, and write your comment in a civilized manner. Thank you very much. International slave trade began in Benin, in present-day Nigeria. The Kingdom of Benin was ruled by Oba Ewuare during the time this trade began. He was the Oba when the Portuguese in 1472 to 1485 reached Benin Kingdom. The Oba exchanged palm oil, ivory, cloth, pepper, and the slaves for Portuguese goods like metal, salt, cloth, guns, and powder. Seeing the goods, the Oba became interested and happy to continue the trade with the Portuguese merchants. People may ask, how did they come to Benin from Portugal? Well, these are wandering people moving from one ocean, one big river, to the other, with canoes or ships through fort and port on the coast, which the latter called Bight of Biafra in present-day Niger Delta, Bayelsa State of Nigeria, which is about 50 to 55 miles to Benin City. Portuguese exploited the slaves and used them as domestic workers. These slaves were found to be energetic, hardworking, and indeed prepared to do anything they were asked to do. This hard work pleased the Portuguese merchants, who, on the other hand, became interested for more. More domestic work were left to be done. Members of the community were coming to hire these very particular slaves for work. As a result, the business is now to be developed. The Portuguese, having realized the need for more slaves to be used, even demanded by the neighbors, enlarged their demand for more slave workers, while the Oba demanded for more supply of guns. This mutual understanding of the business flourished, while the Oba began to use the guns via his local army to confront their neighbors and declare more wars against any neighboring towns and villages. This aided him to capture more captives and sold them to the Portuguese. The captured prisoners of war were also sold to the Portuguese. This was how the Oba of Benin sold some indigenes of Benin who either offended his laws, were captured as a result of war, or disobedience. In addition to those villages he declared the war against. The guns gave the Oba military advantage and superiority over opponents, then more slaves were supplied. This was the origin of slave trade in southern Nigeria of today. Those in the hinterlands joined the business. Also, when Spain, Britain, and others heard this, they began to fight the Portuguese on the sea as pirates until they overpowered the Portuguese and took over their businesses and the slaves. That was how Britain came into the business. This explains why Britain is a greedy country, fighting to take away what does not belong to it, involved in robbery, crook, and always manipulating to steal and occupy where the observed goods and services are flourishing. This business then, that began with the Oba of Benin and the Portuguese, drew attention of all other European countries to comb West Africa and other African lands with their ships to instigate tribal wars and terrorism as an act of capturing innocent African citizens to work in plantations they also stole in American countries by early arrivals. This spread to other neighboring kingdoms. This was how each European country, especially Britain, bastardized supply of guns in Bight of Biafra region to capture slaves they transported to America. Please do not confuse yourself with the Bight of Benin and the Bight of Biafra. Bight of Benin included Yorubaland, Togo, and present-day Benin Republic, while the Bight of Biafra included Benin, that is Edo State, Igbo, Efik, Ibibio, Ijo, Anang, and all other states within the old Eastern region. This was how black Africans were captured, sold to Britain and other European countries that participated in the slave trade. They hauled the captured slaves in their various ships and sent to various countries in South and North America. Today we are going to look at one of the black African sisters who now have been able, through research, to identify where the grandparents came from after carrying out a DNA test. Indeed, most of the children of the sold Africans, their children are today researching to identify where their parents originated.
To me, that was just too broad, and I'm also aware that Jamaica, like our population, is made up of, you know, different ethnicities and backgrounds for numerous reasons, and I'm like, where are those people from? Like, what's going on? All these different ethnicities and races, from, you know, obviously the Afro-Jamaicans to the Chinese Jamaicans to Middle Eastern Jamaicans, Indian Jamaicans. So I want to know exactly where we are from and what brought all of these different ethnicities, races to the island of Jamaica. So through extensive research, I have been unpacking and have unpacked where exactly my people are from, and I will be sharing it with you guys in today's video. So just jumping right in, the very first people to inhabit the island of Jamaica were the Tainos, who are the indigenous people of Jamaica. So they originally arrived by canoe from Belize, as well as the Yucatan Peninsula. And the Taino people are also found in the Dominican Republic, Haiti, and Puerto Rico. I hear them reference their Taino heritage and culture often. So way after the Tainos inhabited Jamaica, which was then known as Zamaica, so it was spelled Xaymaca, Maca, which was a Taino word for land of wood and water, which is pretty cool. And you know, I love the original name. I wish Jamaica had kept it, but you know, colonizers. So the very first Europeans to arrive in Jamaica were the Spanish in May of 1494. So that was essentially Christopher Columbus and his crew of colonizers. The European colonizers arrived and practically wiped out the entirety of the Taino population with their foreign European diseases. To me, it's just insane. Like, what kind of diseases could you be bearing that can wipe out an entire population? Like, that's gross. The very first Spanish settlement was first established in 1523, and it is the area that we still know as Spanish Town.
And they are doing this on a regular basis. You will hear from the Jamaican sister, from those who have also already returned to some African countries. You will listen to them and their experiences. They are encouraging most of their brothers and sisters to go back and carry out the DNA test as they have done, as to return back to their ancestral homes.
To specifically the island of Jamaica, but tons of Nigerians and Ghanaians were also brought to the other islands as well as Brazil. It is estimated that nearly 750,000 enslaved African people were brought to Jamaica between 1655 and 1807. So it makes so much sense that 92% of Jamaica's population are of West African heritage. Jamaica, for the most part, is a prominently African nation. So again, to get even more specific, the slaves that arrived were primarily from the west coast of Africa and mostly from the Gold Coast, which was then referred to as the Gold Coast but is now referred to as Ghana in modern day, and Biafra, which is now primarily Nigeria. The research indicates that the Igbo people, the Ibibio, and the Oyo account for 40%, nearly half of the slaves that were shipped to Jamaica between 1700 and 1800. And get this, I also read that plantation owners preferred slaves from the Gold Coast and the Bight of Biafra, which are now modern day Ghana and Nigeria, because the mortality rates from these particular African groups after the arduous journey across the Middle Passage, which we all know was just atrocious. Their mortality rate, despite all of that, was not high, which is why they, prefer to get the slaves from there. Patois has a lot of Igbo influence, which I think is pretty cool, as well as Akan influence, which is a tribe in Ghana. So, for example, the word Ono, which means like you all, is a Igbo word. So that's pretty cool. Now I want to ask my Igbo friends if they know that word, because apparently it's an Igbo word. It feels really good to know that we were able to retain and hold on to some aspects of our identity and our heritage despite being robbed of so much. I also read that the Jamaican swag, so the way that we carry ourselves, a lot of it is also influenced by Igbo culture. So for example, karai, which in Igbo is referred to as Iwuanyanwu, is something that Igbo people do commonly. So that was pretty cool to learn. Another thing Jamaicans commonly do is kiss our teeth, and that's directly linked to the Igbo tribe, which is just so cool. But the Igbo attribute that we as Jamaicans have that I found absolutely hilarious that was identified is the general air of importance. That apparently is of Igbo influence, because they apparently carry themselves in a way that, screams, I am important, kind of like, I'm royalty, I'm too good for this, I'm the best. And that is definitely the pride, hands down, that we as Jamaicans have. Like, we just have such pride in our people and our culture, and it's so funny to see that that's like a link to how Igbo people carry themselves. Speaking of vernacular, which I could definitely do a whole other video on this, but what is often overlooked is the Mali / Senegambia influence on patois. One of the most basic words that we use daily is nyam, which for those of you who are not Jamaican, nyam means to eat. So that is actually a Fulani word. And another word that is directly from the Fulani language that we use in patois is the word juk. So because of the characteristics of the culture that these ancestors had brought, modified, and preserved, historians have been able to identify these forced migrations, including many of the Maroon people, as Coromantis. So those are actually people from the Akan culture, which is presently known as Ghana. So quick history lesson for those of you who don't know who the Maroon people are or what they are. They were slaves who rebelled and went into the hills and kind of made their own society that was closed off from all European invasion and influence, and they fought the Europeans many times and were just non-compliant, and you know, ultimately were a big part in fighting for our freedom and independence. Thankfully, because the Maroons retained so much.
This was one of the programs and the preachings Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was constantly preaching, as to provide accommodation and good environment to enable those children who now identify themselves through their various DNAs to come back to Africa and be integrated and live amongst their brothers and sisters. This was a good preaching, and most of them did had it, and some of them are coming back to various African countries. As you watch, you will listen carefully to what they say. And we use this opportunity to thank all our viewers, and we ask you to continue subscribing, sharing, like, and also leave your comment. Thank you very much, and God bless you all. Bye.
Real. So we can come to Ghana, we can do our business, whatever you are doing in Jamaica or anywhere else in the world. Africa is awaiting its creators, so please come home. Jamaica Village is really what we call a little piece of the island in the continent.
Yes.
And what we provide, when we were coming actually from Jamaica, we brought all the fruit tree seedlings with us, as many as we could: nesberry, guava, soursop, sweet sop, custard apple, stinking toe, breadfruit.
Aki party today, Aki. Go on.
Yes, so we brought all those seedlings. I mean, when you see us coming like country people are come to town, you know, all kind of bag and pan, my husband carrying fork, him machete, all those things we brought through to the airport, because we say, we not take no chance with food. We're italist and we don't know where we come meet. So at least we know, say, once the seed go in the ground, we're going to get food at some point, you know. So basically that was it. So we wanted to make sure that others coming to us well would have that familiar, because we suffer. After I was here maybe about 2 years, I spoke to my mom, who has now passed since that time. But she said to me, I said to her, Mommy, 2 years I haven't eaten ackee. She said, then my daughter, yeah, suffer. I say, yes. But later on I found ackee trees in Ghana. Most people don't know that it is food.
They don't know it's edible.
No,
they
don't.
It's on the ground here.
Yeah, we saw it. I was actually at the hospital with my daughter, and I had to just tell her, I said, my little girl just lie down here, so let me go check the people that bought the ackee tree there. Because I had to have some, and they were gracious enough to like, oh, it's flowers for us, if you want to take it. So, you know, I said I'd pick ackee, and when I came home, we feasted, you know, and felt like, yes,
Yeah,
this
man.
is it. This is our food, you know. So we wanted to make sure that we have that option to offer to people. So we do ackee patties. Sometimes I do ackee loaf or prepare it in different ways. The last weekend of every month, I host what I call the Real Jamaica Sinting. And I do traditional Jamaican pastries. I do gizadas, bullas, different kinds of cakes. Christmas time, December time, I make, you know, the black fruit cake.
Oh, yeah.
All of it is without, you know, animal-based products, all plant-based products. And we have
Thank you
a
very
lot
much.
of juices. And of course,
We
we have
end
the
the
real
program
Jamaican
here. We
sorrel.
have listened to
Yes.
And you know, we have
Sisters
the red
from
plum
Jamaica,
juice, cherry,
is now-
star
they
fruit,
are
all
now
of these
living
things
in
from what we
Ghana.
brought from Jamaica.
But unfortunately,
and
we've not had
planted.
them
So
living
that's what
in
Jamaica
Nigeria or
village is
in
all about,
Benin
you know?
or
We
in
offer eco-tours
Yoruba
as
land
well.
or in
so we
Igbo land
introduce you to whatever
because
is on the
of
land,
the
and
system
you know, we also
that
have
is
a
on
wonderful
ground.
view. So
There is no security
that's a
in
part of
Nigeria,
what
but
Jamaica
in
Village
Ghana
is
where
all
there are
about.
security, you
So,
see them living there.
that's
With
it.
this, we come to the end of this
Respect,
program. We
that's
ask you to
respect. I
subscribe,
just want to say, you know, it's
like,
always
share,
one black love.
and leave your
And the
comment.
food
And God
is
bless you all.
divine.
Bye.
You know,